art of wrestling with professional wrestler Colt Cabana.
All right, how you guys doing? Come on in, sit down, relax. You're about to listen to The Art of Wrestling, a professional wrestling podcast. It's a life podcast. It's a personal journal. It's an entry into the minds, the souls, the hearts, and lives of the people involved in the world of professional wrestling. I am your host. My name is Colt Cabana. I am an actor. I'm a man of the theater. I'm a podcaster. I'm an entertainer. I'm a personality. Most importantly, though, I am a professional wrestler. And I am sitting here live in my studio apartment in Chicago, Illinois. Before I go any further, this is fan-supported and listener-supported podcast supported by people just like you. Give it to you free of charge every single Thursday. ColtCabana.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts from. A couple great ways that you can support, rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Tell a friend, tweet it out, Facebook it out, Snapchat it out. The best way that you can support, though, ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com, t-shirts, buttons, pictures, posters, DVDs, digital downloads, premium podcasts, and of course, the Wrestling Road Diaries 3, along with the other ones. You could buy them in a package. You can buy them in a promo. You can buy them separately. You can get a bonus disc. You can not get a bonus disc. You can get a digital download. However you want to do it, you can do it. It's all available. ColtMerch.com, DigitalColt.com. I'm an actor. What should we go into first? Should I tell you Bobby Fish is on the show? Bobby Fillet of Fish. Doing my best Chris Berman there. Is that such an old reference? Am I that old that that's the reference I use? I don't even watch SportsCenter anymore. That's what I used to watch. That's what I grew up on. Right before you go to school, I watched 25,000 hours of SportsCenter and Chris Berman giving people nicknames. Bobby Fish sounds like he would make an amazing host of his own cooking show. And that's not a joke. That's an observation. I think that's an obvious joke and a shit observation. All right, let's talk about this acting gig. And the only reason I'm talking about it is because that's what I talk about. What did I do each week? Kind of this monologue is usually about my journey in the world of professional wrestling. The last 2 weeks have been kind of not shit, but the schedule, for some reason, slows down around the holidays, around Christmas time, around Hanukkah time. No one cares about Hanukkah, but you get the idea. Around New Year's Eve. The night before New Year's Eve, luckily enough, I was able to wrestle for AAW, Marionette Park, Illinois. They packed the place. A couple years ago, there was like 200 people. A couple years ago, it was in Berwyn, and it was only allowed 175, 200 people. They would pack that. They moved it out to Bourbon Street, 300 people. Decent, not amazing. I used to say the acoustics were kind of shit, but now all of a sudden, 800 people are lining up at Bourbon Street, and now the acoustics work. You pack it, acoustics are great. I think the key to success is Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix. Fly yourself in some luchadors and get a lot of fans. No, it's a packed house. It's a packed house, and AAW has really changed the landscape of how they work. And it's a risky model because it's expensive. But if I'm a fan, I got to say, I got to love it. I know, I'm sure, front row tickets are now $40 or $50, but for $40 or $50, you get the best talent from all over the world flown in, as opposed to $10 and just seeing some dudes. And I think it's the right way, and it's got to be a good model because it's working, and I'm working on New Year's Eve. But besides that, a little slow. We had to do the comedy show to put something in the schedule in St. Louis. That was so much fun. Blueberry Hill. I think we're going to be back. And because there was time open, I was able to audition. I caught myself a role like a fish. And I'm not really sure what I'm allowed to say. I just got back from shooting the scene. I had one scene. It's a show on NBC. It's one of those Chicago shows. I might be saying too much already. And the experience was interesting for me because I'm doing a scene, with the famous people, or they're the leads of the show, and they see me, and I'm just a dude. And it was weird for me. I mean, at the end of the day, if you take it all away, it was a day's work. I was happy for it. I got paid very well. But when you go inside the bubble, to me, it was the dichotomy of a wrestling locker room. I sat around. I was quiet. I was to myself. A couple lower people on the staff knew who I was, and that's usually the case, right? That's the theme of my career. The upper management has no clue. The people on the bottom, the people with it, they get it. They always know who I am. And I'm not the type to be like, hey, guys, I'm Colt Cabana, pro wrestler. So I just stood to myself. These people just thought I was some schmuck from an acting school or a local dude, I guess. And I get it. But it reminded me to always be cool to the other people around who maybe are uncomfortable, who aren't shitheads, right? I think that's the key, because there's a couple of times I was like, fuck, this is weird. Maybe I should crack a joke. Maybe I should say something. And then I would think to myself, wait, if I was in that situation and this guy said this stupid joke, I would be like, fuck, this guy is talking. So I get it. I got it from all sides. It was a fun experience. I'll let you know when it comes out. I'm hoping you guys will do a full social media ambush so the people are like, what? And then I can get some more roles. And then we could change this podcast to the art of the Chicago shows on NBC. Bobby Fish is my guest today, and one of the cool things in this talk that came up was ageism, or the idea of getting a job because of your age. And I think nowadays we are in such a great place in the world of wrestling. It's not exactly where it needs to be, but it's come so far from even just a couple of years, but especially, years ago, if you were over 30, you were laughed at. You were basically told you'll never get a shot. You'll never make any money. Your career is over. If you were 30, you were looked at as like super old. Fuck, I remember being in a locker room. I think Tough Tom of Disorderly Conduct, I had wrestled him. He was probably like 32, and I was like, this guy is so old. They have to look at me that way. Fuck, right? The 19-year-olds and the 18-year-olds in the locker rooms got to be like, holy shit, Colt is an old man, which I guess I can understand. And maybe they think that of myself, or they think that of Bobby Fish. The reality is, though, you see how hard Bobby Fish goes, what an amazing athlete he is. And I feel there's a generation, like my generation, that is getting older, but started as like the indie generation, that we're still keeping it to a high level into our 30s and 40s, as opposed to when this generation was younger and we thought of the guys who were 30s and 40s on the card, and they just were all just old, sloppy, lazy fucks, just kind of about to get out of wrestling. And I know that's generalizing. And I don't know if I just feel that way because I'm part of it. I don't know. Maybe some of you guys have thoughts on that. Bobby and I, we had thoughts on it, and we talk about it, amongst many other things, including his father, who passed away. And sadly, Final Battle weekend, his mother passed away. This conversation was from right before that. So obviously, I gave my own private condolences to him, but, I'll say it out here. And in Bobby Fish fashion, he took it in stride. He took it as well as you're going to take it. And he had the Bobby Fish witty attitude to go along with it. So I'm sure it hurt deep inside, but Bobby Fish, he definitely stayed strong. He showed a good exterior, and he better be strong, because I will be wrestling him next week in Atlanta, Georgia on ROH television tapings. You better be ready, Bobby. We'll get to that chat in just a second. Let's hear a song. We got a song of the week, and it's brought to you by Harry's, the first sponsor of the year, my favorite sponsor of the year. Harry's razors are the razors that I use. I gave my father a Harry's shave kit for his birthday/Hanukkah gift, because that's what happens when you're born on January 2nd. I'm not giving you both, Dad. You're getting a combo gift, and it's going to be from a sponsor using my very own code. You too should be giving this out as a gift to yourself or your loved ones. For years, Big Business Razor has been jacking up the prices, and we're the ones that are paying for it. But our heroes, our personal heroes, Jeff and Andy, they went to Germany and they bought their own factory so it can go from them to us. And there's no middleman, and that's where the savings and great prices come from. And it's not just pennies. Harry's is half the price of Big Business Razor. All right, here's what you get with Harry's. Weighted ergonomic handle. Did I say that right? Let's hope so. 5 precision-engineered blades with loop strip and trimmer blade. Rich, lathering shave gel, and a travel blade cover. Harry's is so confident in the quality of their blades, they want you to try their shave set for absolutely free. That's kind of ridiculous. All you got to do is cover the shipping when you sign up. And because you listen to the show, go to harrys.com right now, enter the code COLT at checkout, and they'll also give you a post-shave balm for free. A lot of freebies with Harry's. Go to harrys.com, use the code COLT, start the new year off with a good shave. Song of the week this week is by a former backyard wrestler. I assume it's in the song. His name is Rhyme Time. You'll hear the story in the song. Support him and his group at houseoflewis.com. Rhyme Time just put out an album called Gnarly. You can also watch the video of this song on YouTube. It's full of wrestling and goodies and Young Bucks t-shirts and Pro Wrestling Tees t-shirts, and it's really well done. The song is also featuring Mega Ran. It's called Punchlines and Clotheslines. Enjoy it. We'll be back with Bobby Fish.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey guys, we're also brought to you today by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter. It's a search engine for finding and posting jobs. Are you a place or a business or a thing in wrestling or a wrestling company and you need somebody to hire? Posting your job in one place isn't enough to find quality candidates. You need to post your job on all the job sites, and now you can with ZipRecruiter.com. ZipRecruiter already has 9 million resumes you can search through in their database. With one click, send your job to 100 plus job sites, including social media like Twitter and Facebook. Jobs in any city, any industry, nationwide. No juggling emails or calls to your office. Quickly screen those candidates, rate them, and hire the right person for the job. It's been used by over 1 million businesses. Featured on Forbes, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and more. When Frank or Scrump or Jeremy or one of those guys quits Pro Wrestling Tees and starts NWO Pro Wrestling Tees, I'm going to get ZipRecruiter to hire for the original Pro Wrestling Tees. That's the black and white version. Right now, my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/first. That's ZipRecruiter.com/first. One more time, ZipRecruiter.com/first. Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, Colt.
Good to have you finally on the show.
Yeah.
I thought one of the starting back with Ring of Honor is one of my excitements was not the big crowds, the exciting action back on television. I was like, I get to finally see Bobby, and maybe we'll do a podcast.
Get out of here.
It was one of
You're buttering me up.
Oh, it was that.
Something awful's going to happen.
Do you think so?
No.
Because I have the hard-hitting questions. I need to know stuff. I need to know. No, I mean, we haven't, I think when I was there towards the end, you started coming in or no?
Ring of Honor?
Yes.
Yeah, I very much was coming around doing the pay your dues thing.
Pay your dues.
DeVito was still working actively with Ring of Honor.
Well, this was 2000. I'm talking more about 2010, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, right. I mean, and we can scratch the back of
that goes way back. That might be too far back.
No. It's just crazy, which I don't think a lot of people. I mean, I don't know how much you put it out there, but I mean, you've been around forever.
Yeah,
forever.
yeah, definitely. Well, I played football in college, so my start in pro wrestling was late by most people's standards. I mean, I don't think I really started training in earnest until I was 23.
Wow,
yeah.
Which is because I always say that I started at 18, going on 19, and I was always like, I'm started so late.
Right. You
hear these stories of Briscoe brothers starting at 12?
Yes, exactly. Or Ricky Marvin, same sort of thing. He started when he was 12.
Yeah.
Rocky Romero is another one that started super early. I don't know. I think it's all relative, because then if DDP walks in this room, well, now he's jealous of my start time,
And DDP could easily walk in. He'd stretch in.
Yes, exactly.
He might be doing lunges into this room.
I hope he does. That would make this epic.
Are you a yogaman?
I've started in the last year or so to really get into mobility out of necessity.
Yeah.
I'll be 40 in October, and I got aches and pains that weren't there before. So
so as I start reaching 40 years old, which is a couple years away, but you easily threw it out there. I thought that was interesting. And age, do you worry about age discrimination in professional wrestling?
I did at one point, and then I made a conscious decision to just own it and fuck it. I truly believe my 50 is not going to be like other people's 50. I've maintained and kept myself active and feel fantastic as I sit here today, and I truly believe that I'm gonna do this as long as I want to continue to do it. I hope not to be a guy that overstays his welcome, but I really feel like I'm not under the gun, believe it or not.
Yeah, no, I guess, yeah. So you envision yourself at 50 still
maybe if I want to, but I'm also sharing a locker room at times with a guy like Liger.
Right. Well, that was my other...
Or Nagata.
When I think being in America, we don't... and you were with Noah, obviously, and we'll talk about that, but start going to Noah and watching maybe Segura and seeing Masato Tanaka at 25, being the man, and all these guys who are high age... And it's not. It seems less discriminatory over there.
100%.
And I think that was. And I don't know if that was the same for you, but I think that was just one of the times for me where I was like, oh, Because I think you see kind of at wrestling like, well, at 42 you're going to be pushed out, right?
Exactly.
In America, at least.
Yep.
And I know it says that, but
right. But it's almost implied.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think it comes from society first, and just within our society, like it's supposed to be all downhill after fucking 20, and it's like, Jesus Christ, I've still got majority of my life left to live. It can't be this miserable. And I just think that I think people in this country, and it spreads to wrestling 100%, that people, they subscribe to it and they think that that's the way it is.
Like, was there a moment of you, like, because you said, like, when I asked you that, it hit you. You were like, yes, like I saw the yes in you really quick, but you were like, I got away from it. I guess I want to know about the moments like where it was weighing on you. I don't know if it's...
I think anytime that you go and do anything WWE related, so you go up and do the extra thing, or you do a tryout, or you do an anything, it becomes very apparent to you then. And I think very much in years past, I think it's better now with them up there, but that it used to be something that they wholeheartedly... I don't know if endorsed is the right word, but like they certainly didn't run from it.
Right.
So yeah, it was right there in your face. I just look at it as I have something to offer this business. And as I get older, I'm getting better. I'm learning more. As long as I have something to offer, I'm going to continue to try and do it.
And well, I guess you had like different breaks because... It's weird. I don't know. Kind of going back into society, I guess. Like, I don't know how you were, and I don't know your upbringing really, well. But like, at 26, I saw a lot of my friends. Like, that's when they all started becoming successful in life, and I was still like scrounging at the wrestling, right? So like, if you were scrounging at like 35, still like, ooh, I don't know if I'll.
Yeah.
Like for me, as a 26-year-old, looking at myself as a 35-year-old, saying like, well, this is the time that maybe you'll start getting a break.
Right.
I don't know if I would have, stuck with it, but I don't even know if that was like really a thing. In my head, I probably would have been, well, at 30, if I didn't do anything, I'd go get a job at Walmart or try to work up a corporate ladder or something.
I definitely had a Crossroads moment.
It's when you wrestled Cody Rhodes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I lobbied for it on Twitter previous to getting the match. A Crossroads moment for me had a lot to do with home. There's a Target distribution center not far from where I live. I had a friend who was like, listen, you walk in, start at 50. I have a bachelor's degree. I never really put it to much use. And, wrestling at that time was paying some of the bills, but certainly not all of them. I was substitute teaching, I think. And I had that moment where it was like, okay, I think I'm going to continue to wrestle, but it'd just be for fun. And
the dad weekend softball player.
Exactly. Yeah. That's who I was going to settle into being, take the job at Target and just, it was what it was. And then this Ring of Honor thing seemed to the door kind of opened, like that it could be a possibility. And I was like, well, okay, fuck it. Let's give this, this will be the last shot, I guess. It wasn't as pivotal a moment as like, oh, this is my last go and I got to make it work. I mean, save the drama. But
to grabbing that Target job and then being like, well.
Yeah, it was like, okay, one or the other. Yeah. And the Ring of Honor thing, when it started to work out, it was gradual progression. So it's not like I completely pushed away plan B or A or whatever one you want to consider first. I just, as the Ring of Honor thing became more, and then New Japan happens, and then I don't know. I don't want to knock Noah in any way, but like that was my previous experience in Japan, and then to go to New Japan, and I don't want to say everything's better. Everything is just, it's great there. I love it there. And it was like,
going into New Japan, did you just think it would be what the Noah experience would be?
100%.
And except maybe a little how bigger houses, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I just figured that they were like, I think we went over to Noah around the same time, correct? Like 2006-ish?
So, well, that's when I was in WWE.
Okay.
And then I feel that you were there. I went there 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I started going there, they were the number one.
What year was it?
like 2006, 2007,
Gotcha.
and then even 2008, like 2009. That's when Misawa Kobashi were still on top. They were definitely a bit older, but they were still dropping people on their heads. People, I thought that's what the number one company in Japan was like. So that's my point of reference. So going to New Japan, yeah, I totally expected it to be the same or very, very similar.
And okay, right. So the point is, like, obviously, I have nothing but great feelings for Noah. I hope you do the same.
I do.
But it's very, and so I don't know what difference you're getting at. But if I can give a point of reference for people, and we both can kind of describe it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was very like kind of stoic and very not lighthearted. Like, is that kind of what you're getting at? Is
yeah, a little bit stiff, not in the idea that getting hit hard in the ring, but just
as people in a company
less. No, I don't want to say less friendly because they're very welcoming. They're very polite. They're very hospitable. But the New Japan locker room, there's just a lightheartedness that exists there that makes it feel more like, oh yeah, this is kind of the big time, and it's I don't know, just somehow the difference between the two just makes it.
It's like, is it like summer camp?
Without the flutes. Without the flutes.
Was there flutes at summer camp?
Well, wasn't that American Pie? She shoved it somewhere.
Oh, there you go. That's band camp.
Yeah. I don't know.
Somebody never went to
camp
summer
is camp.
Okay, so you grew up in
Upstate New York.
Upstate New York.
Yeah.
And
Albany area.
Okay. Did you play big time football?
It depends on what you call big time. It was non-scholarship, so no. I by most people's standards, it would not be considered big time. I think what you realize though fairly quickly is that playing college football, even at a smaller level, is still like a round the clock endeavor.
I played for 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you glean the same?
Yeah, I was miserable, but yeah, I was. I was what is it called? I was giving my life to them.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even like good or like new, and I wasn't even contributing. Like I sucked. So, but I still, you got to be there for everything. And like when I stopped, and you could probably the same like when you were done. I stopped after a year. I had so much free time. It was like the most satisfying thing. But it also made me appreciate any little time I had.
Right.
That makes sense, because I was so used to giving all my time to something that once I was done, I was like, I love the idea of sitting on the couch. It's probably why I haven't that's who I am now. I think the appreciation of being lazy and sitting around is from those days of just like nonstop go at college.
Yeah, I think that, that's what it became. It was like, okay, go to your classes, then you got a meeting. And at the end of the day, you got practice. And then after that practice, there's another meeting because we got to watch film. And it was like, okay, I love football. I loved it all the way through while I was playing. But yeah, it's a lot to expect from kids at that age to devote that much time, whether it's at Notre Dame or Siena College where I played.
Yeah. Did you Albany area? Sorry, did you go to wrestling as a kid?
Was I into it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it with my dad. The NWA Crockett Cup years like that, 89 into 90 were probably the things I was the biggest fan of. Like that's when it was at its peak for me, where it was like I was wrestling crazy.
What kind of fan was your dad?
In what way?
Yeah, was he like trying to watch it all the time, or was he like, hey, you want to watch this thing that's on?
He watched it all the time, but he wasn't like a sign guy or anything like that.
A sign guy?
Yeah, he didn't have signs or anything at the show.
I didn't expect him to be. In my head, it was it's either a guy. It was like if it was on, it was on, and you.
My dad wore a lucha mask.
Oh, that's exactly what I was asking.
Right? Yeah. No, my dad was definitely full on fan. Came from a generation where wrestling was still very protected. My mom, some of my uncles, because my dad's passed away now. Well, one of my uncles, because they're all passed away too. Still at times have a hard time separating what I do and what they grew up thinking was the business. You know what I mean? So that can be humorous at times, to be honest.
Right.
But yeah, my dad was always into it, and until when he passed, like Raw was something we watched together. When did my dad pass? It was 10 years ago. The 24th was his anniversary. So, yeah, 10 years ago, I would have been like 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys, would you still be watching it with him, or like?
Yeah, I think as an adult, like there were times that I would pop over to the house and we'd watch some Raw. Yeah. And then, like during the Monday Night Wars, my dad and I, and this will be very dated. We had
made signs.
Two right. We took our clothes. Oh wait, 2 VCRs, or no, 1 VCR. We would watch one and we would tape the other, and then watch. So there was like a 4-hour block of wrestling in my dad and my life at one point, and. Yeah, wrestling was something that I think I kind of father-son bonded over.
Do you know what I did? What's like not a thing at all anymore, but I remember during the Monday Night Wars when we got it was something about, I'm not a tech guy, but something with the 2 VCRs, and we got the picture-in-picture.
Oh shit!
And it was like, my life.
That was epic technology.
I didn't know what to do. I was like, do I switch? And then when we got picture-in-picture, I felt like a real rich kid.
Right.
Like,
Did you feel any sort of loyalty to keeping one or the other on the big
I think it was
screen?
Whatever action was hottest at the time.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah.
I don't even, like I think at heart because, and you might be different if you said you grew up with the NWA.
Well, I grew up with WWF too.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I was in New York, so of course that was the flagship, so to speak, and definitely the first stuff I was exposed to. I remember, though, consciously thinking it was a Saturday morning, and there was something that might have been a replay, but it was dusty, and it was some kind of a bunkhouse match, and there was blood. And like I was used to Saturday morning superstars, where it was job matches, and there was certainly you're never fucking seeing blood. To see blood on Saturday morning, I was like, "Oh, this is the real wrestling."
Did they play blood on Saturday? I guess they did, huh?
Like I said, I think it might have been a replay. Because it was bunkhouse style, so they may have been doing like an update. And in my recollection, my adolescent recollection, I may be a little off the mark, but it was.
But they were like so outlaw. They're like, fuck it. Dusty's like, put it on, fucking put it on.
And it looked grittier.
Yeah.
And there was something to me that was like, oh, this is real.
Well, that's the difference between some people is like, it looked grittier, so I knew. Like in my head, WWF was always like, well, the production was a little more movie like, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, this is the real.
Okay.
This is the real one.
Yeah.
The other one is still wrestling. I love it, but like, you could tell who the A League is. Yeah.
So very much kind of two sides of the coin.
How we look
to
at
me,
stuff.
right? The production being a little less made it like, oh, this is the stuff, which is kind of ironic because I never ended up really getting into ECW, which you would think kind of the same thing would have been the case with somebody seeing ECW.
Do you think you were too old?
I don't. So there's definitely a point in high school where I probably my fandom waned a little bit. I don't know if those times match up. And then even in college a little bit, again, not to go back to football, but football became so consuming that it was like, I was definitely a fair weather fan then because I couldn't be a bigger fan at that time with all my time commitment to
Did
school.
you go to
football.
wrestling as a kid?
Did I wrestle like amateur?
No, did you go to wrestling? Did you go to the shows?
Oh, yeah. I remember my dad, we went to the RPI Fieldhouse in Troy. It was me and my brother. My brother and I are like a year and a half separated in age. He took us to the Army-Navy store, and we got full camouflage fatigues and went to the show that night of Sergeant Slaughter versus the Iron Sheik.
Oh.
Yeah. So
that's cute. You're the original cosplayer.
Yeah. We did it. We did the thing.
Did you get any, do you remember getting attention from, fans or people?
I don't think so. I do remember.
Because that's why you do it, right?
I don't know why.
Especially
we were kids.
Yeah,
I don't even know. I was a big G.I. Joe fan. I don't know what my motive was.
I don't think I ever went anywhere dressed as anything.
Really?
That's probably a thing. And you have kids, so, Did your kids, I don't know how old they are now, like they ever just want to like rant? Do you have a girl?
I have 2 girls.
Do they sometimes they want to just go up as like princesses, like just out in the world?
They did that at Disney. That when they were probably 5 and 6. Disney did a like makeover where you get made up into a princess, and so like on that day they walked around the park as princesses, but it's not so odd at Disney,
right?
You know, be different if I took them to the mall like that.
Yeah. But I feel some people some kids are so crazy.
Yeah, I've seen some weird shit in Japan.
Have you?
One of the last times I saw you in Japan was with Hiro, and we ate in some place near that Gold's that we go to, and it's that shopping district. Have you ever seen? More than once, I've seen some cosplay going on in that area.
But is it people putting on like a little show, or just the idea of them walking around?
Sometimes, and I don't know if it is part of the show, but sometimes you'll see those street performers that are like not performing, and that's their performance. That they kind of just stand there.
I don't know,
and then they might react to this thing or that thing, but it's some sort of performance art that I just assume goes over my head.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I think a lot of stuff from there goes over your head.
I'm pretty willing to accept my stupidity, So
okay, so. How does the plan of being a wrestler at 23 pop in your head? Was it a thing of I'm putting this off because of football, or was it a thing I'm done with football? What do I do with my life?
I think it was done with football, and what do I do with my life? Because I think pro wrestling was always something that like my friends and I would joke about. They being probably more fair weather fan than I, and me just. I guess the personality to them, they were like, oh, yeah, I could see you doing that. So it was always kind of a joke. But I never really took it serious. And then football ends. I thought maybe I could play arena or something, knowing that I wasn't going to play in the NFL, but thinking that I could at least get a few more years. I just didn't want to stop playing.
Okay.
And that's what it came down to. Tried out for a couple arena teams, didn't happen, and then it was like, okay, well, what do I do now? I moved out to California, out to San Diego, kind of on a whim. I have friends that lived out there, and I was going out to visit, and ended up not leaving. So I stayed. I was in California, in San Diego for about a year. What was it?
PWG?
No, not PWG. It was a wrestling school in El Segundo.
I don't know. PCW?
Which was closer to L.A. No, not PCW. What the hell was it called?
There's PCW in San Diego.
I want to say Powerhouse. El Segundo. Rick Bassman was the...
UPW?
UPW, there you go. So I was going to go up there. I went up. I didn't have a car or anything out there. I was staying with friends, but I went up there and talked to him and set up like, okay, I'm going to come and train here. Once I get this car thing situated, and I'm new to California, so got to get a job, blah, 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 all that stuff.
Do you think he was like, yeah?
Oh, I'm sure. Looking back, of course he was. What's ironic now is I remember that day in the ring working out. If I'm not mistaken, was Samoa Joe. I'm pretty sure CD was there.
Chris Daniels.
Yeah, I want to say The Miz might have been like just getting started too. Just stuff that I saw that day that I remembered, but I wasn't really, I was in a situation where I couldn't commit to it fully. Anyway,
I also like the idea of you not knowing any of those people, but maybe being like. But maybe like, oh shit, that's the Miz.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Because to be honest, like CD and Samoa Joe, I didn't know who they were.
No, why would you? 2000, whatever it was.
Right, and now looking back, I know, and it's like, wow, it's so weird that we crossed paths, but didn't even realize it then. So yeah, it's interesting.
So what happened? You couldn't get your.
I went back to San Diego working on all that real life stuff, and ended up taking a job with a marketing company that was going to put me on the road. So now I'm traveling with the other job, so I can't get to wrestling school.
But so, and it's kind of the same thing as the Target deal is. Where was your headspace? Was it like, well, if I'm on the, you weren't like, if I'm on the road, I won't be able to do this training.
I kind of was, but I was just in a pickle where it was like, I need to be an adult here. I got to have a job. And I didn't want to just work retail or something while I'm in San Diego. So I took this. The marketing company gig was enough money that it was like, I kind of can't say no to this. But it had me on the road, which would eliminate the possibility of going up there. But not having a car was eliminating that anyway, so it didn't matter. During that time, my dad got sick. Long story short, I went back to New York when my dad got sick. And then was in New York, and there was more than likely not a chance of me going back. Or if there was, it was going to be a bit of time. And that's when I found DeVito.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who's been on the show? Tony DeVito?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been on.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that one.
Howl.fm. Go to the archives.
All right. I will do that.
Yeah. So did you... Well, it's funny because you said you weren't an ECW fan.
No. I didn't... Tony... Previous to that, I didn't know who Tony was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is... I don't know. Which makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're... I don't know if you're not like 100% into it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit of a weird, like, I didn't even really know what indies were and stuff. The indies that are close to me in upstate New York are beyond bad. So it wasn't anything that I went to. It was not something my father introduced me to. The first indie I went to in upstate New York was so awful that it kind of gave me a view of like, do I really want to do this?
Is this when you were training or like right before you were training?
I think I probably had taken a couple of bumps, but I was still nowhere near able to start working.
You had started... Yeah, because if you wouldn't know where the indies were unless you were in that world a little bit, right?
Yes, and it was a little bit in that world, and there was a guy named Jeff Leibel who started to train me. That's actually how I found DeVito, was through Leibel.
Well, how'd you find... I mean, what'd you do? You went on the internet and said upstate New York wrestling?
Yeah. I don't remember exactly how I found Leibel. I don't remember, but I know that I found DeVito from Leibel because he had DeVito come in as like a guest for the day when we were starting our training. So Leibel I found before I went to California, and then when I came back from California in an effort to like, okay, well, if I want to train and I can't go to UPW because I'm now on the East Coast, what can I do here? Oh, shit. Well, there's that. I think I came across DeVito's name on the internet and then was just like, oh, shit. There was a number. I called him, and he was like, yeah, I'm in Newburgh, which was an hour and a half from where I grew up. So it just made sense. Like, okay, yeah, I'll be down on Sunday.
So what'd you do? You started doing an hour and a half drive?
Yeah. Started training. We did like Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings. And when I started training with DeVito, Cheech was starting to train, a guy named Scott Cardinale,
who
Cloudy
Scott,
used to bounce around. Yes,
Scott would be in OVW with me, right?
Yes,
he moved to Louisville.
Yes,
Yeah,
yep. There were a couple others, and then there was like Lou Santiago and Turtle, who did some Ring of Honor stuff early.
Killers?
Yes,
Yeah.
there you go. They were around to help because they had already been trained, but they were around to kind of help and take bumps and just be there as bodies. But yeah, then I just started training with DeVito twice a week, 3 times a week, whenever we could get it in.
Came out of all these upstate New York. Did Colin and Brody come from DeVito or no?
No, they came from Western New York, so like Rochester area, which is
Colin Delaney,
like 3.5 hours from where I grew up. I don't know if the distance is shortened a little bit by Newburgh. Anyway, but it's still probably like a 4 or 5 hour ride.
Oh, so that's not even close.
Yeah. For them,
but as a Chicagoan, I just think New York City or Upper New York, it's all the same, right?
Right. Well, I get that all the time too. It's either people think the city or they go, "Oh, you're from Buffalo." It's like, no, I'm actually closer to Boston than Buffalo,
and I can hear it.
Yeah.
I don't know what I could hear with your accent.
It's been debated as to what my accent is.
So I was first introduced to you. We were doing the Ring of Honor shows. DeVito and Loke would come down.
Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, that's who trained guys like Colin and Brody, and they came up with Loke.
HC Loke.
Yeah, so that's why there may be a little connection in your brain because
Gotcha.
of Loke and DeVito.
Gotcha. Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And your name, you had one of the best names I've ever heard in wrestling.
We're talking the original.
The original name.
My OG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I forget if it was Jackson or Johnson. Which one was it?
It was Jackson, but DeVito lobbied strongly for it to be Johnson.
Oh, so it's in my head. Jerk Johnson.
Yes, but
Jerk
but it was Jerk Jackson.
Yeah.
Yes, officially it was Jerk Jackson because Jerk Johnson to me, the play on words, not necessarily where I was going with it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so it stayed as Jerk Johnson?
No, Jerk Jackson.
It was Jerk
Jackson.
Jackson.
It's Jerk Jackson.
Great. This is, I mean, Colt Cabana and Jerk Jackson, like the alliteration we could have been a team.
I know. The possibilities.
Yeah. And what was that? You like the idea of being called Jerk?
This story is really less exciting.
Okay.
I was coming down for training, and Jack Johnson was on the radio. So that song was in my head. I get there for training that day, and I didn't realize how close I was to having matches. And DeVito said, "Hey, you're going to go with Turtle and Lou this weekend and have your first match."
Oh, a real match?
Yes. What's your name going to be? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. And I think because I had listened to that in the car on the ride down, I said, maybe I'll be Jerk Jackson. And he was like, yes, you are. And then 10 minutes later, he's like, you know what? It's still Jerk, but it's going to be Johnson. And you're going to have like a stained wife beater and maybe come down with porno magazines, another dated reference. And then, it was established like, oh, no, that's not what I'm going for. But then DeVito was just in his wisdom at the time, which for me being so green, definitely couldn't see it. But he was like, Jerk Jackson is something people are going to remember. It's going to stick out. Like, yes, that's going to be your name. Mm-hmm. So that's what we went with. And it stuck until I started working for Noah.
How bad was your first match?
Oh, it was, and the lead up to it was really so going that weekend. It was a battle royal. It was in Syracuse, someplace near Syracuse. So it was a little bit long ride for me at the time, and it sucked. The facility sucked. There was maybe 30 people in the crowd, but probably 50 of the boys in the back, because there was a battle royal. So that's 30 immediately. I remember looking around the room, waiting to go out for the battle royal and being like, fuck, I made a mistake. Like, I'm not like any of these guys,
And you made a mistake that you weren't ready to wrestle, or
that I don't think this was for me.
Wow.
That I think, this was a kind of a failed attempt. And I resigned in my head to, you know what? I'm here. I'm going to go out and do this thing. And then this will probably be my first and my last.
Huh.
Yeah.
And so in my head in this story, you went out and, like, even though it sucked, like, you
went out, laid an egg, and quit. And then I was done.
Is that what happened?
No.
No.
Went out, did the battle royal. It was nothing stellar, obviously. It's a battle royal. But I, it's cliche, but I had heard previous to that, like, you get bit by the bug and then
That's
you're
what I'm
sick,
saying,
blah, blah,
yeah.
blah. Yeah, I got bit.
The idea of, like, being out
obviously.
there in front of it and, like, maybe a little bit of adrenaline rush.
Yep.
God, I can see that happening, too. It's really...
And in that battle royal, the lunacy of some of the things that went on, like, I think I took a bump from getting hit with a doll. Like a doll, like a little baby that was brought to the ring in a carriage. And so for the serious athlete in me at the time, because that was always my point of reference then, at least, was like, no, I'm an athlete. That would not have been appealing, but yet somehow it was. There was this indescribable, moth to a flame sort of thing. Like, I just was, this is awesome.
It seems to me like an ongoing theme on this podcast a little bit is that, like, as we the not necessarily the jock kids that are mean to everyone, but just as the athletes,
sure.
All of a sudden we get into wrestling, and then now all of a sudden we're in theater, which we never thought it would be. Mm-hmm. But I feel like maybe we have the same mentality as, like, why do we like theater so much all of a sudden? Mm-hmm. Where when. Not that, like, this isn't like a bully thing or whatever. I'm saying the idea of us as the athletes, like, plays and that stuff had never had any it wasn't for me.
Right.
Like
Those are the theater kids.
the theater, but it's not, I'm not ripping on the theater.
No,
kids.
me neither.
Right. But that's what they like. I don't.
Right.
I don't like that.
Right. I didn't look at it as, oh, the theater stuff is bullshit. This is the important stuff. I just looked at it as, that's different. I'm not into it, and you're not into my stuff. So,
Right.
but that's okay.
Here we are in this world, and we are.
Right.
We do like the theaters.
Right.
Is that? And that goes into when you said this wasn't for me. I'm not like these other guys in the locker room. Are you saying does that stem from being like kind of like an alpha male guy?
Maybe a little bit of that. More of like, okay, indie wrestling, especially early indie wrestling. I guess everybody gets a trophy. You know what I mean? Like guys are allowed to get into this that maybe shouldn't be in it. And I'm looking around the locker room and I'm seeing way more of them. If I'm not mistaken, and I remember back, I might have felt like I was in a locker room of all that, and I'm I'm the kid that's not like the others. So that's why I think I had that feeling of not dread, but just this is not
because
for
you were
me.
always super in shape, and you were even bigger, right? So.
Yeah, I just thought I was not impressed by anybody athletically that I was exposed to in indie wrestling at that time. Which would then lead me to the early Ring of Honor stuff when DeVito started bringing me to those. That's the first indie wrestling where I saw guys like AJ and Joe. And even you at that time would do the acai. And as big as you were, for the first time, my exposure to indie wrestling was, oh, fuck, these guys are athletes. They're like me. In fact, some of them may be better athletes than me. It intimidated me a little bit. I had not felt that previous in my exposure to independent wrestling, and that was what really kind of started to turn me on and challenge me in the same way that football and kickboxing or whatever else I did competitively in years past challenged me.
And it just takes like if those guys weren't coming, like you would never have, if DeVito and Luke weren't coming and you didn't jump in them, you probably would have never even been exposed to that.
Yeah.
You would have just stuck around.
And that's the thing. It's what you're exposed to. Yeah. So if that early indie wrestling stuff is all you get and you never get outside of that, I don't see myself continuing to have done this and pursued it as a career. Definitely not.
You didn't even know that was the thing you could look for. It kind of found you.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, okay, you got WWF, WWE, whatever, and then I was aware that there was a Japan and Mexico and stuff, but the drop off between the two was like, no, I don't want to do the indie wrestling shit. Like if somebody said to me a year in, hey, listen, come to OVW and pay a ton of money, but you'll be closer to I would have probably thought like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that because that's a faster track, not realizing that would have been more than likely a mistake.
Right.
But you don't know it.
So you ended up going to Noah and doing the dojo, right?
No.
Did you jump right in?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I went to Harley Camp.
Yeah.
When WWE was going to be there.
It's funny you say that, right? 2 seconds later, you end up going to a camp.
Yeah, of course. Go to the Harley Camp, and WWE's going to be there, but Noah's going to be there too. And what your goal was either WWE is interested or Noah wants to. They're looking for two guys to come over and do the dojo.
What a camp that was, by the way. It's like there's like two options of like two different things that people are wanting to hit. Like someone was not smart enough, but like made it viable.
Smart enough, I think. No, I think you're
Not
I agree with that.
Fair enough.
No,
like there should be a camp where just like it's essentially kind of a combine, if you will, right?
Yeah. I mean, to a lesser degree, and combine coupled with a money grab.
With a money grab, yeah. Enough, yeah.
Because it is what it is.
I think it's $500.
It was.
Yeah, it's not. As opposed
if I'm not mistaken.
Some of these camps are $100. That you just do. But
yeah.
This
one, for whatever reason, made sense, and I went and I did it. And then they contacted me after that. Now, when I left there, I had a lot of positive feedback, but there was nothing that led me to believe I'm getting anything. But I thought I might have. I thought I did well.
Did you leave there going, I just wasted $500 plus a plane ticket and a bunch, like essentially $1,000?
Not entirely, because it still felt like there was a possibility of something, but feeling like, yeah, that could be one of the outcomes here. Definitely.
And it is for most of the people that go there.
Yeah, well, and it has to be.
Yeah.
You know, just based on numbers alone, it has to be. Because if they're successful with the amount of numbers they're drawing, but yet they're still only going to take 2 or 3 or let's say tops 5 people, between the two companies that are looking. So, yeah, when I returned home and was contacted by Harley, I was pleasantly surprised. And he told me they were going to bring me over, and then he would get back to me with itinerary, blah, blah, blah. So I assumed I'm going for 3 months. I started to prepare for that. And then when I got my itinerary, it was for 3 weeks. And I'm like, well, this got to be a mistake. I contacted Harley, and he said, well, they're not bringing you over to do the dojo. They're bringing you over just to go right to work. And so that's why you're on 3 weeks. And to be honest, I thought that was a bad thing.
Right.
I didn't. And as clueless as I was, my first 3 tours for Noah, I kept asking them, can I come stay in the dojo? I realize now how fucking crazy they must have thought I was. But yeah, I thought that the dojo was the way.
Well, and because I don't know if you want to, but like going over there as Americans or whatever we are, we go over there, and I remember, and you were probably going over the same time that Dragon and Davey were going over maybe.
Yeah, Brian and I did a tour for Noah together, maybe 2. I was never on tour with Davey, but definitely around the same time. Yeah, same time frame.
I remember the idea of like they were like, we're just the Americans to make them. We will never be part of this company.
Within Noah, yes.
Within Noah,
yes. That was.
So my thing is like in your head, and like in my head, I was like, well, if I ever want to like be part of this family, I'd have to like live here and live in the dojo and like be accepted as the token American,
right?
To move up in the company,
right? If I'm being honest, I wanted that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I wanted that.
Of course you would want that. Why wouldn't you want that?
Yeah.
You don't want to just be a day player. You want to You want to be Dave. You want to be Dynamite Kid who changes the way.
Of course, yeah. Dynamite was like the fucking thing it was a whole part of the whole reason why I wanted Japan to begin with. But I do remember guys like Ogawa. So when my first tour over there, I'm doing the young boy stuff before the shows and stuff, and Ogawa comes up to me, and I think he's giving me a hard time. And why you do? Young boy, and I'm like, but. Yeah, I am, because Harley, some of the advice Harley was given to me, it was like, you're obedient, you do what they ask you to do, and you're respectful, and you do the work, and you work harder than everybody, blah, blah, blah. And he was just like, so there was a bit of a miscommunication there where they were like, well, we're bringing you over, you are a wrestler.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that. But yet I'm doing it the first 3-4 days, and then finally, I think it was Bison pulled me aside, was like, hey, asshole. And we didn't know each other that well at the time, but Bison was always pretty frank with me, and he was like, cut it the fuck out.
Yeah, because
like,
I'm going to have to start doing this.
Probably.
You're making me like that.
It was a bit of self-preservation now.
I'd imagine.
Yeah, but he was like, you don't need to do this, man. They respect you as a wrestler, which some of that I'm sure he was padding my ego a little bit. I'm sure they didn't think much of me at the time. But he's like, they brought you over here to be a contributor. You don't have to do that stuff. And as I did more, I began to understand and realize like, oh, okay, well, this was kind of a good thing, but it had to be beaten into my head. Like Ken had to say to me, it was Ken and Rue. It was at a Ring of Honor show. Actually, they pulled me.
Guys,
yeah,
for context.
They pulled me into an office to talk about whatever, another booking or something, and I lobbied for the last time for the dojo, and Ken put it into terms that I could understand, where he's like, this would be a demotion. You'd be taking steps backwards. So you don't want to do this. And so that was me letting go of my dojo dream.
What were the biggest? Did you do those Budokans?
Yeah, Budokan was the biggest arena that we were doing.
So how many did you wrestle in front of?
Whatever, 15, 16, whatever Budokan fit. Because at that time, like when I first started going over, they were hot, man. I want to say I was there at one of the Budokans for it might have been Kobashi and Misawa. There were some big matches that I was young boy style ringside for. Yeah.
And then another like kind of question or feeling that I'm always interested in is that at that time, then you start going over 2-3 years. You're touring like on this, not full-time Japan, but you're a guy.
Definitely not.
But you're a guy who tours Japan, right?
Yeah.
And you're not a guy on the American wrestling scene.
Not as much. Like, I mean, doing the local indies, expanding as much as I could, going to the Ring of Honor stuff with DeVito, but, just...
But some of these guys that are on the high end independent scene, right? Because this is what I know is the independent scene, right? They would kill to go, and like we see these people who do these tours of Japan as a little maybe higher in status, or someone who's like, because like, oh my god, they've been asked to go to Japan and now they're part of the Japanese wrestling culture.
Sure, and somebody's foot in the bill just for you to get from one fucking plot of land to cross that ocean to the other. That shit ain't cheap.
But in saying, that's why I always find it very odd when then they can't. Those person like can't make a dent or a break, or nobody wants to put them on their shows in America.
That was puzzling to me,
and that's kind of puzzling to me.
Yeah,
and I'd imagine how much it probably you were frustrated or,
frustrated and just. But knowing also that, shit, maybe I don't understand this the way I think I do. But, like, I definitely expected after my first tour of Noah, and definitely after my second or third, like, when I come back, hey, now's when the big bucks come in. And the big bucks, unless $75 a booking is big bucks. It just didn't, it still didn't break. And to be honest, it was probably that way for me a good portion of the entire time I was with Noah, which would have run from 2006 to 2013 or 14 was probably my last tour for them, because it was within the same year that I started with New Japan. I think that was 2014.
Yeah, but I mean, in that time, then you started. But it took you going to these camps and wrestling for Evolve, and like I don't know what the first one for Evolve. Like, did you go to Evolve camp also? Or?
No, Evolve because I knew Gabe from the previous Ring of Honor stuff, but Gabe was always Gabe because I was the guy paying my dues,
you were putting up the ring.
Yeah, and here's Gabe. Gabe's the boss. Yeah. So I just had this respect for Gabe. I think I probably reached out to Gabe when he was fired, just to say, hey, sorry to hear it. And then we may have corresponded here and there just in passing. And then when he was starting to do the Evolve thing, I don't know if he contacted me or I contacted him, but it was like, hey, I'm working on something. I'll be back in touch in a couple months. And then 2-3 months later, we talked again, and then the Evolve thing was starting to come
together. But that's
together.
10 years after training or whatever it is, right? I mean,
yeah. Oh, definitely.
That's your first kind of higher profile independent wrestling is 10 years after the fact.
After I already started late.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think I was destined to be the 40-year-old that is now saying, but my 40's not like everybody else's,
And it's I think that's, and I always think that's the crazy part is that if you look back, if you just take yourself out of it and you look back and you say, hey, would you, well, I guess, I mean, I know you went to Japan, but like, hey, you'll start at 23 and you won't crack anything until you're 10 years, 10 years of doing this.
Yeah. If somebody said to you when you first started, hey, listen, your break's not going to come until 35. That might have been enough to deter you and say, hey, no, I'm not doing this wrestling thing. Let's find something else. Yeah, but certainly.
I guess I guess in that really, it's all about that journey, not necessarily the destination.
Yeah. And right now, as I sit here, man, I'm making a living. I pay all of my bills for both of my kids. I help their mother. Obviously, I give her child support. I pay my own, blah, blah, blah. And it's all through wrestling. And if you told me that 10 years ago that would be the case and that I wouldn't have a contract with WWE and was still able to do that, I'd have told you that you're out of your fucking mind. So it's pretty cool to be sitting here in this position right now. And it's not lost on me. Right. Not at all.
And how exciting is doing New Japan stuff in front of these crazy crowds? Like
the Tokyo Dome, I still, at times, I feel like, did I really fucking walk out in front of...
How many people were there last year?
I think close to 50.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 50.
Yeah.
Let's say 50.
Sure, 50,000.
Yeah, 50. 60.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. It's crazy. And to think... not to take this a sentimental route, but like there's definitely moments I'm not really religious since my father passed. Like I feel like when I need to talk to somebody, I generally address my father. And there have definitely been a few moments at Wrestle Kingdom where I have taken a second right before I go out to keep track of that and to think about, you know, this stuff that I watched with my father and this big stage that this is. This is very, for lack of a better term, WrestleMania-esque. Mm-hmm. You know, and yeah, there's a little bit of pride associated with that, and feel like, you know, if my dad is still somehow in this, some sort of being and is watching, like, yeah, I hope that he sees that, and that makes me, like I said, I think there's a sense of pride with that.
Great.
Certainly,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Where are you at on the internet, bud?
I'd stay away from it unless masturbating.
That's
just you know, strictly for masturbation.
I've got a Brazzers account, and that's it.
That's where I draw the line. The Bobby Fish on Twitter. Stay away from my Facebook. I won't accept you.
Okay.
Yeah, just Twitter. I got an Instagram on there too. Yeah, you. I banned you from there. I've blocked you. Now you can do that. So,
do you have Instagram?
I do, and that I think is the Bobby Fish as well. Okay. I should probably know that for certain. I should not preface that by saying I think.
It is,
but yes.
One last
C.
The Bobby Fish, that name came from somewhere, right?
Of course.
Is there a silly story to that, or no?
No. Well, I don't know if my parents were high or.
Gotcha.
No. Last name legit. Yeah, Robert Anthony Fish.
Oh, your last name is Fish?
Yes, sir.
Really?
Yeah, and that's kind of peculiar too, because more times than not, people within this industry definitely are looking for the gimmick.
Yeah.
Like, where's the association? You know, where's the mask with the fins?
Oh.
Yeah, no,
we think we know someone.
Right.
And we don't.
Yeah, and that's why, like, in the beginning, when DeVito asked and the Jerk Jackson thing happened, it was like, well, you can't be Bobby Fish. I'm like, no shit.
I don't know. You and Shark Boy would have been.
We would have been quite the duo.
It was meant to be, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on.
No, I appreciate you having me, man.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah.
One more time, Bobby Fish on the show. Thanks for opening up. Thanks for chatting a little bit. And I will see you in Atlanta, Georgia. Center Stage. They used to shoot Saturday night, WCW Saturday night there. Should be a very fun night. All right, before we get out of here, let's get into some plugs and
upcoming events.
All right, the best way that you can buy Wrestling Road Diaries sleeve, Funny Equals Money, a documentary about comedy and professional wrestling, ColtMerch.com, digitalcolt.com, Twitter and Instagram at Colt Cabana, Facebook /AOW podcast, also /Colt Cabana, my storytelling podcast, Pro Wrestling Fringe, plus past archives of this show are ad-free on howl.fm/Colt. Use the code COLT, get yourself a free month. ColtWrestling@gmail.com is my very public email. Maybe you're a promoter who want to put me on your upcoming show or convention. I got a YouTube channel. I'm posting stuff up there. ColtCabana.com is my website. I got a P.O. box. People are sending me stuff. Christy Bruno, who's probably been sending me Subway cards for 7 years during this podcast now. She sent a late Christmas gift with Subway cards in there. Thanks, Christy. My Jersey cop friend Anthony basically sent me a get-out-of-jail-free card in Jersey. Thanks, bud. Next time I'm at WrestlePro, I'll cause some havoc and then drop your name. Dave in Australia, thanks for the stickers of your bands. I will put them on my bag. And Tony Garcia, he wrote a book. It's called Rent-A-Cop. Tony, you know I'm not going to read it. But when it gets turned into a movie and I'm playing the cop and I'm forced to read the script because I'm an actor now, guys. I'm an actor. That's when I'll read it. I'm sure it's great, though. Upcoming this Saturday, January 7th, and Friday, January 20th, LaSalle, Illinois, Marionette Park, Illinois, AAWrestling.com. Friday, January 13th, West Allis, Wisconsin, BruceCityWrestling1.com. Saturday, January 14th, Atlanta, Georgia, ROHWrestling.com. Sunday, January 15th, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Facebook /First Wrestling. Saturday, January 21st, Alton, Illinois, PWCSWrestling.com. Saturday, January 28th, Southgate, California, Facebook /AWS Promotions. And that Friday is a part of Rise-Wrestling.com. I'll be doing a women's seminar. Friday, February 3rd, Coventry, England, Facebook /Kamikaze Pro UK. Saturday, February 4th, Sunday, February 5th, Nottingham and St. Neots, England, SouthsideWrestling.co.uk. Saturday and Sunday, February 25th and 26th, Preston, England, PrestonCityWrestling.com. Okay, that is the show for this week. Hey, you at home listening, Starting off the new year, I really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys telling friends. I appreciate you still digging the show since 2010. Thanks to Bobby Fish for jumping on the show this week. Thanks to Cable Guy Jeff and Stu Stone, Kid Russell, Matt Jenkins with some music, Dane Miller with that tech, highspots.com, a VOD service that's amazing. So many PWGs, $5 wrestlings, AMA knee pads, gear, mask. You need a wrestling ring? They got it. OneHourTees.com. They help run ProWrestlingCrate.com. They help run ProWrestlingTees.com. That's the place where you can support your favorite independent wrestler by buying a t-shirt or some other fun stuff. They got fun stuff there. TweakedAudio.com/Colt. Earbuds that I use. Get over 30% off and free shipping just because you listen to this show. And that is the show for this week. First one of the year. I do not have any New Year's resolutions. I mean, I want to be a better person. I want to trim down a little bit. I did put on a couple pounds. I'm looking to trim those down. And maybe get some more gigs. The wrestling schedule has not slowed down in 7 years, though. So I don't know how much these gigs are coming my way, but I enjoyed doing them. You got a gig? I'll do it. Oh, I'm SAG, though. Sorry, guys. I'm part of the Screen Actors Guild. I could not be in your independent movie. That's probably what WWE contract people are like. I can't wrestle on your indie show. Are there indie promoters who try to book WWE guys? There has to be, right? I just had a revelation. Okay, I'm going to go think about that. Probably laugh about it. You guys have a good week. Hey, this has been The Art of Wrestling. For Colt Cabana, I'm Colt Cabana. Thanks. Like I always do like an Easter egg at the end of the episode of the person, and I figure I should start doing it.
Easter egg to me is like what used to be on DVD.
On DVDs, right? Okay. So like when the whole episode finishes, and then there's like a little 10-second clip of like something fucked up. It's like a little hidden surprise. That's what
right.